Aloha, Rich Halverson here. This is ICS321, and today is February 25th. And I'm going to just continue on with Chapter 3, do some SQL today. So let me share my screen. And we are around here working on Chapter 3, and Chapter 3 is really where you learn all the SQL. And really in this course, this is really the thing that you want to leave the course knowing how to do. Now you might not leave the course knowing how to just do all this stuff right off the top of your head and have developed a skill of writing SQL like you can do algebra or whatever. It might not be that good, but you need to be aware of it and know what can be done in SQL. And by just following along in my videos, if you really don't understand what you're doing, but you do it and see the results of your work, then I think that's a good way for you to come up to speed well enough. But the biggest criticism that people have, that employers have had with students coming out of my course, is that they aren't strong enough in SQL. So I've rearranged the textbook a little bit to put a bunch of SQL along the way in Chapter 3, and then there's a couple of assignments that have some SQL, and I'm going to go through those, all of those, and try to make it so everybody knows what it's like to write a correct SQL statement, and it might take some people a little bit longer, but that you can finally arrive at the right answer. All right, so here's the textbook. I've opened it up already. So we're doing Chapter 3, and we ended last time with this lab 3.9, I believe. If you look at the videos, I think the last one was this section 3.9. It was a while ago. I went and looked, and I think I did something last week, but I didn't post it because it really wasn't worth posting. So let's start with 3.10 here. And here we talk about inserting, deleting, and updating rows, and we just did an exercise in inserting and deleting, I guess. There's several different insert statement formats. This is the most general and oldest, where you say insert and you say the table name, and then you list the columns in an order, and then there's the values term here, and then the values here are in the same order that you specify the columns up here. So of course there has to be as many as there is here, and so on. And so here's an example of where you're going to insert records into the employee table, and we're going to insert an ID and a name and a salary, and this is the ID that's inserted, this is the name that's inserted, and this is the salary that's inserted. So if you leave off the column names, then there is an order to the column names when you define the table. And so that's the order that's used when you are specifying the data to be inserted. And you shouldn't really depend on order for columns and tables, because really the order of the columns don't matter. If you have two tables can be thought of as exactly the same, as long as the columns, as long as they're the same, there are the same columns, not in the same order, but all the same columns are there, and all of the records are there with the values, corresponding to the same columns in each table. So in other words, you can have another table that's called employee 2, and it's got this data in it, but the name column comes first and the salary column comes second. Let's say, for example, the ID's last. Those two tables are considered exactly the same in relational algebra, and when we're comparing databases and and importing databases and all that. But when it comes down to doing things like inserting rows, there is an implied order. And in fact, in PHP-MyAdmin, you can actually change the order if you want to. If you created the table and you don't like the order. Also, when you're adding columns, you can say where you want the column to be added. So you often add new columns to your tables, and you will very often not add them right at the end. You'll probably, there's some place in the middle where you feel it's more appropriate, and so that's what you do. There's another insert data format. Okay, so here we aren't specifying the column names. Here we're actually loading up 3 records, you know, not just one. And so we put the values. This is 1 record. It's in parentheses and then separated by a comma. And you probably saw that in the did I delete it already? The insert the file that you insert in into your Garden Glory database. Those insert statements, I believe, look like this. So here, go through these to make sure you understand how these insert statements work. When you have auto increment columns like we have in Garden Glory, you normally don't specify that column because when you're inserting, because the database takes care of it. In fact, you shouldn't. So you would do something like this, where you just skip the ID column altogether when you're inserting. Another way to do it is you have the ID column there, but you put a value of null there, and that's what Garden Glory in the Garden Glory inserts. That's what they look like. You know, you can do this in MySQL. In MySQL, it accepts it, but it can cause problems later if you insert an ID that's going to be coming up in the auto increment, for example. All right, so make sure you understand, you know, the order counts and so on. Okay, next there's an update statement, and an update statement looks like this. You have update and then the name of the table, and then you have this word called set, and then you have a bunch of assignments, a bunch of what looks like assignment statements. So you say that column 1 is now equal to this, column 2 is now equal to this. So in an update statement, you can update some of the columns in a row. You don't have to, you may not update all the columns in a row, but that's how you do it. And also with this condition thing here, you can update more than 1 row at a time, depending on what the condition is. You might want to update all the rows of people that live in Honolulu or something. And so you where city equals Honolulu, and you might be changing something like, I don't know. You might be adding something to everybody. So this to me makes, I mean, I like this format better than the insert format. And in fact, this kind of format does work with insert. So in other words, it works if you put in an insert, you put insert there, and then of course you're not going to have a where. You're not going to have a where with an insert, but you can. But there is an insert format that looks like where you say insert table name set, and then a bunch of assignment statements. You know, and it would be something like name equals 2338, manager ID equals sales or whatever. Of course, this is wrong. This should be which statement correctly inserts sales if the only employee IDs are this one and this one. So I guess it's this one. If the only employee IDs are that, is that? Okay, I guess it must be this one. Does not exist, but we're inserting. It said it didn't exist. Matches an existing primary key value. Okay, I must not have understood the question. Which statement correctly inserts engineer? Multiple repeating values. This is department code, name. Yes, trick questions. Code name manager ID. Which statement correctly inserts engineering? Okay, code is auto increment. So it's not gonna be this one. It's gonna be either this one or this one. And
I
this
think
one.
the code and manager ID has like a foreign key. Is that what the mole is?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay, so probably let's see.
Yeah. Yep. Hold on a second.
Um,
All right. So anyway, you should go through these, and as somebody said, there's a lot some trick questions in here. So make sure you understand that. And let me get to delete statement is like an update, except for you're not changing anything. You're getting rid of the whole thing, but the condition there can identify more than one row to delete. Let's do some labs here. Okay, so the first one here is insert rows into horse table. So we've got a table that looks like this, and we want to insert this data. So I guess we want to create insert statements for this. ID auto increment. So insert in. No, let's do insert. What is the? It is into. And then this is one way to do it. We're going to leave off ID. We're going to put registered name. Well, no, does it tell us what kind of registered name?
oh, this is the one. I think this one's tricky because you have to create the table first, I'm pretty sure. Because if I remember at first I thought the table existed, but then it kept
Okay.
like not going through.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna just do one then. I think this should work. And you're saying now I'm going to get an error because the table's not created.
Yeah, if I remember one of these ones, like I was like trying to insert for like forever. And then it took me a while to figure out that you had to like make the table first because nothing was even going anywhere. That was one of those confusing trick questions.
Okay, well, I don't think this one, because I'm looking at the solution and it doesn't, and the solution just has the, it doesn't like about this.
Yeah, I remember one of these ones I've spent like forever and I couldn't figure it out before I had to look it up. And
Oh, I
then it was
forgot.
like, oh, you need to create a table.
Yeah, I forgot to put the table name, of course. Now, let's see if this works. Let me just, one thing I like about this, and I encourage people to do this, is just, you know, just put something there, click submit, see what your errors are, and incremental development. Okay, I got 2 out of 10, which means it accepted
Oh,
that
it did
first
go.
one, but didn't accept any of the other ones. So let's now they will have you. Do I have to do it all in one statement? Because I should be able to. Okay, and I'm gonna do this. And this 14.9. And this is this. And I get rid of this because we don't have a registered name for that. And what is the default for registered name? It doesn't say what the default is. I guess that must mean it can be no. All right, and we've got LE, these. And we've got this. And I need to put some of these in here. See if that works. Okay, and I did get all the points. And what I was saying before is this also works. If you say, read equals this, cut this out of here. Read equals this. And height equals this. And date equals this. Birth date equals that. And so this looks just like an insert statement, and this looks just like an update statement, except for we're inserting instead, and so this should also work. Oh, I'm dying. Dying. Did I really not? Does it really not work? Oh, I need to put the word set. I'm wasting your time. All right, so prove my point. Okay, so next one, update rows in horse table. We have the same looking table, it appears. make the following updates. You want to change that to that, that to that, and that to that. Okay, it's a bunch of updates, huh? So it's going to be update, doesn't need, case doesn't matter, but update horse, set height equals 15.6, where ID equals 2. Update horse set registered name equals lucky lady, lady luck, comma, birth date equals 2015-005-01, where ID equals 4. And the third one is update horse set breed equals null. I think you can do that. Where birth date is greater than or equal to 2016-12-22. Semicolon. Breed. So I want to see what this does. Yes. All right. That looks good. Okay, what's next? Delete rows from horse table. How about this? Delete from horse where ID equals 5 or breed in Holsteiner, comma, paint, or birth date before 2013 dash March dash 13. So I hit there, I did it all at once, all in one, semicolon. So I'm going to see what happens here. All right, very good. All right, what's next? Selecting rows. Select statement selects rows from a table in the from clause, and the data is returned from the select statement called the result set or the result table for the results. Column names are listed after the select keyword, these are, you're selecting which columns you want to look at, separated by columns. This is this projection that in relational algebra we talk about a projection. That's the projection part. This is a table. Oh, this says all the columns. Easy way to say all the columns. This is a table, but it actually can be something that just looks like a table. So you can join up a bunch of tables, because when you join up a bunch of tables, it looks like a table. You can actually have another select statement in there because the result of a select statement looks like a table. So it's pretty flexible there. That's the closure property fits. So here we're doing some examples of selecting from, this is the select all the columns from this table, select just these columns from this table. So make sure you understand, select all the rows and only the name, select all rows and only the name and district columns. You say the name and district columns. All right. So there's this limit clause you can put at the end. That's if you want to, this is especially useful when you're testing, because you might be testing something and your database has got 1 million records in it, and you just want to see if something works on just a small number of records. You put the limit clause in there, and it's only going to do it for the first 100. And so you put this at the very end. There can be some other stuff between the from and the limit, like a where, but the limit goes at the very end. So the where clause will restrict. It's a way to restrict the number of rows that comes back. This is the most basic way to limit the number of rows that comes back. But there's other ways of you can use the where clause, and that way you limit what kinds of some particular characteristic of your data. Like maybe you just want to look at everybody that lives in IAEA. So the where clause would be blah, 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 where city equals IAEA, assuming there's a column in your table called city, and assuming that it's populated with some records that have IAEA in it. And so the where clause is condition. It's just a condition. It looks at a bunch of columns, compares them with values and perhaps other columns and so on, and the result is either going to be true or false. If it's true, it's included. If it's false, it's not included. And these are the common operators. You recognize all these operators. Here you're selecting all the rows from this country, from this table, where this field called percentage is greater than 10.0. Let's see. Oh, here we are, field called percentage, and so we're only interested in those where the percentage is greater than 10, which would be this one and this one. So anyway, make sure you understand how the wheres work. So now we have projection and restriction. Logical operators. This is a 3-level computer science class. You've had 141, 241. So you know what they all mean. Here we create a table, we load up the table, and we select all the movie. We select all the columns from all the movies where the release date is before 2000. So we'd be looking at Casablanca and Toy Story and Rocky. This works. You know, if there's anding and oring, gotta keep those straight. The and is done first, and then the or is done later. And has precedence over or, so you might not even need these parentheses, but it's a good idea to put the parentheses in there just in case. There's some language. One of the languages that we taught ICS 111 back. The first time I taught ICS 111 was in 1994, and the language was called Pascal. And that language, there was no operator precedence between ands and ors. And so I thought that was kind of weird, but that forever sticks with me. So I never just assume that and has precedence over or, although in every other language it does. So arithmetic operators work just like you'd expect. And here's a nice challenge activity. Do this to make sure you understand how selecting rows works. And let's do another lab. This class goes till, how long does this class go till? $2:45. What time is it? 2:47. I'll do one more and then we'll be done. Select lab. Select horses with logical operators. Okay, so I've got our horse database. I want to select these three things only for horses between this height, inclusive, or with a birth date on or after this date. So I want to select registered name and height and birth date, height. Birth date, I'll finish in just a minute here. Birth date from horse, where height is greater than or equal to 15.0 and height is less than or equal to 16.0 or birth date is greater than or equal to 2020-01-1. Okay, now I'm going to test it. I'm going to test if it recognizes this as having precedence over this. But it should either way because it should do that first. Okay, let's see this. Oh, got to put the semicolon. All right, let's see what we get here. Okay, I got all the points. I'm just gonna. Okay, I'll answer your question in just a second. I'm gonna try one thing here. I want to see if what happens if I put this over here. I want to see if it does the and first. It should do the and first. It does. Good. So it and as precedence over or. Okay, so the question is, this week's schedule looks like this. 22 to 27 labs. Does it include 22 to 27 labs? Well, let's look at I'm not sure, but if you did do them, you'll get extra credit for them. Okay. Just as a policy, I do that. So you would get extra credit, and extra credit can really help. It helps more than I originally planned it to help, but since I have that policy. But I'd like to try to answer the question. Go to Gradebook Classic. I guess I can't really tell here. What does it say in the syllabus? Oh, well, one way I can tell is by doing this. Let me go to here. And let me go to let me go to here. And go to reporting. Yeah, they're not marked as optional, so I guess they must be. Are you? So you're saying that they're not in the syllabus? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guess they are included. I think I'll just change it in the syllabus here. So it's good that you did them. All right. Okay, so yes, there's a mistake in the syllabus. This should go all the way up to 327. Now, how far is 320? What is it? It's like a bunch extra. Oh, yeah, those are important. You got to know how to do inner joins and multiple joins. Well, I mean, I'll do them all. I'll do them in this class. I'll probably do them next week. Okay. Very good. Okay, so that's all I have for today, and I hope this helped with chapter 3 and your SQL, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.